Strange things happened in the world's most heavily secured prison. During morning roll call, the prisoner at the end of the corridor was nowhere to be seen. The impatient guard went to check.
Damn it, Dufresne, you're putting me behind! I got a schedule to keep! You better be sick or dead in there, I shit you not!
But when he reached the cell door, he realized the one who was doomed might be himself. The alarm sounded instantly. Shawshank Prison, then known as the world's most escape-proof, had a murderer vanish into thin air from his cell. The warden found it incredible. The prisoner had been shining his shoes just last night before lights out, only to disappear without a trace by morning. Looking at the posters covering the walls, Warden Norton burned with rage, grabbing a handful of rocks and hurling them at the wall. Instead, they smashed a hole right through the thick wall, and echoes drifted back from behind it. Warden Norton reached out and tore through the poster. The moment it was pulled away, everyone was struck speechless with shock. Behind it lay a seemingly bottomless tunnel. The entire prison guard mobilized, but all they found miles away in a filthy ditch was a mud-caked prison uniform, a bar of soap, and a rock hammer gnawed nearly to disintegration. This was the Shawshank prison escape that shocked all of America. A tunnel estimated to take 600 years to dig, a banker wrongly imprisoned, achieved freedom in only 27 years, and took the entire prison's wealth with him. The story began in the deep autumn of 1947. A new batch of prisoners arrived at Shawshank Prison that day, and all the inmates gathered at the entrance to greet them. The most excited among them were the old-timers. Following tradition, the onlookers started placing bets on which new fish would crack first. The seemingly easy-to-bully fat man became the majority's pick. Just then, one man in the crowd caught Red's eye. He had slicked back hair, wore a suit, was tall and thin, looking frail, standing out awkwardly amidst the surrounding commotion. So Red bet a whole pack of cigarettes, wagering this man, who even wore a suit to prison, wouldn't disappoint him. The prisoners lined up as ordered. Next came Warden Norton's lecture time, which was suddenly interrupted.
When do we eat?
The warden gave a look. The captain instantly understood, stepping right up to the offender.
You eat when we say you eat. You shit when we say you shit, and you piss when we say you piss. You got that, you maggot dick?
In this prison, the warden's rules were the law. They were no longer protected by it. Warden Norton believed in only two things: discipline first, and the Bible second. Prisoners could still have faith, but their lives now belonged to the warden. Soon, the prisoners were hosed down like animals, then covered head to toe in quicklime powder to disinfect them. Stripped naked, they were marched to their cells clutching prison uniforms and a Bible. The first night is always the hardest. The moment the cell door slammed shut, the new fish realized it was all real. Their lives had been destroyed in a blink, leaving only endless regret. Most men come close to madness that first night. Someone always breaks down crying, without fail. And this became the old-timers' entertainment.
Lights out!
With a command, the entire prison plunged into darkness. Eager to know the outcome, the old-timers began taunting the newcomers relentlessly, especially the sobbing fat man.
God, I don't belong here.
We have a winner!
I want to go home.
And it's fat ass by a nose!
The louder the new fish cried, the more excited the old-timers became. But the noise grew too loud, quickly drawing Captain Hadley's displeasure. Instantly, everyone fell silent. Everyone knew the terror of Hadley, but a new fish wouldn't understand that. The man's hysterical screams pushed Hadley too far. He drew his club and struck without mercy, blow after blow, finding vital spots, only stopping when the man lay motionless on the floor, utterly silent. When the warden wasn't present, Captain Hadley ruled the prison. Before leaving, Hadley ordered the man taken to the infirmary. The next day, Haywood collected his winnings, a sizable haul. He wanted to thank that new prisoner, only to be told the man had died hours ago. Captain Hadley had beaten him to death, yet no guard ever took him to the infirmary. The body lay stiff until dawn.
What was his name?
What'd you say?
I was just wondering if anyone knew his name.
You care, new fish. Doesn't matter what his name was, he's dead.
Andy's way of thinking always seemed different. Red grew increasingly interested in this rookie who cost him a whole pack of cigarettes on his first day. Prison food was always fresh, sometimes containing maggots.
Are you going to eat that?
Hadn't planned on it.
Andy clearly didn't appreciate it, but Brooks lit up seeing them. Plump and tender, full of protein. Zrenia promptly pocketing the grub. In this sunless cage, Brooks nurtured a bird, a symbol of freedom. At first, Andy kept to himself, seeming burdened, struggling to adapt to prison life. Until one day, about a month later, Andy finally approached someone to talk.
I'm Andy Dufresne.
Wife-killing banker. Why'd you do it?
I didn't, since you ask.
You gonna fit right in. Everybody in here is innocent, and you know that? Hey, what you in here for?
Didn't do it. Lawyer fucked me.
And that someone was Red. Shawshank held only felons, yet every man claimed he was innocent. Andy was no exception. Andy had been a successful bank vice president, but his wife betrayed him, having an affair with a local golf pro. Unable to bear the humiliation, Andy got dead drunk. That night, he loaded a pistol with bullets, ready to end it all. Strangely, Andy never pulled the trigger, yet his wife and her lover were found brutally murdered in their home. The bullets scattered on the floor, and his clear motive left Andy helpless to explain in court.
You strike me as a particularly icy and remorseless man, Mr. Dufresne. It chills my blood just to look at you. By the power vested in me by the state of Maine, I hereby order you to serve 2 life sentences back to back, 1 for each of your victims.
And so, Andy, who had done nothing, was sent to prison. Red was the prison's go-to guy. He could get anything, and Andy wanted a rock hammer. This instantly put Red on guard. He thought Andy meant to escape or bash someone's head in. Because word had spread, the prison's most notorious gang, the Sisters, had their eyes on him. If Andy used the rock hammer for trouble, Red's business would be over. And Andy assured him he was just a geology enthusiast, wanting to carve things to pass the time with the hammer, and would absolutely not cause trouble. Soon, with help from an outside contact, the rock hammer Andy wanted slipped silently into the prison, and Red hurriedly opened it to check. Just as Andy had said, such a hammer was useless for escape. A power drill would be better. Brooks, while delivering books to prisoners, secretly slipped the item to Andy. That day, while working, Andy was sent to the warehouse to fetch supplies, never expecting the Sisters had been lying in wait.
Hush.
Despite Andy fighting back with all his might, he was no match for their numbers. The more Andy resisted, the more excited the Sisters became. Red wished for a different outcome, Andy winning and walking away unscathed. But prison is no fairy tale world. After that, Andy always had fresh wounds on his face. He never spoke of them, but everyone knew it was the Sisters' handiwork. The Sisters wouldn't leave Andy alone. Sometimes Andy won, but most times he lost the fight. He had never been as miserable in his whole life as during his first 2 years in prison. If it continued, Andy would surely be killed by this place. Then, in the spring of 1949, things took a turn. The prison needed 12 men for outside work detail. An outdoor detail was a rare chance to breathe fresh air. Over 100 men volunteered. But the outcome was as Red expected. He and his buddies were all selected, and they made sure to bring Andy along. The cost was 1 pack of cigarettes for each guard. Red really liked this well-spoken banker. While working, Captain Hadley and his men started complaining. His brother had died unexpectedly, leaving a sizable inheritance. But the government would take most in taxes, and if filed wrong, he might even have to pay it all himself. The government's greed gave Captain Hadley a headache. Then, out of nowhere, Andy walked right up to him.
Mr. Hadley, do you trust your wife? What I mean is, do you think she'd go behind your back, try to hamstring you?
Andy's words made Captain Hadley think he was being insulted, and without a word, he prepared to throw Andy off the roof.
Because if you do trust her, there's no reason you can't keep that $35,000!
What did you say?
35,000.
35,000?
All of it.
All of it?
Every penny. If you want to keep all that money, give it to your wife. The IRS allows a one-time only gift to your spouse for up to $60,000.
Oh, tax-free?
Tax-free. IRS can't touch 1 cent.
Andy knew many government loopholes and understood all the laws concerning money. If Captain Hadley let Andy help, he'd have a lawyer and banker rolled into one. The key point was Captain Hadley would get the entire inheritance. Andy would handle everything for free, and it would cost him no time or effort. Andy's condition was very simple. Just buy his work crew a couple of beers each. Captain Hadley couldn't refuse a deal like that. So on the day before the job was finished in the spring of 1949, the inmates on the work crew sat in a row on the rooftop at 10 a.m., drinking cold, refreshing beer, courtesy of the toughest guard in Shawshank Prison, and the other guards could only stand by and watch. At that moment, with the sun on their shoulders, they felt like free men, like they were fixing their own roof. Andy sat alone in the shade, a strange little smile on his face, watching the men drink without moving. Haywood picked up a beer and walked towards Andy.
Want a cold one, Andy?
No thanks. Gave up drinking.
After that, Andy earned the respect of everyone. Some thought Andy was trying to suck up to the guards or win the prisoners' friendship. But Red saw it differently. Andy just wanted to feel that taste of freedom again, even if only for a fleeting moment. Still, the sisters remained Andy's biggest problem. They were constantly looking for chances to torment him, and this time, they came prepared.
You don't understand. You do that and I'll put all 8 inches of the steel in your ear.
But you should know that sudden serious brain injury causes the victim to bite down hard. In fact, I hear the bite reflex is so strong, they have to pry the victim's jaws open. You know how to read? You ignorant
Andy was just that kind of man. He never gave in. Failing to get what they wanted, the sisters flew into a rage. They beat Andy within an inch of his life, leaving him in the infirmary for a full month. Boggs, the leader of the sisters, only got a week in solitary confinement. But this time, the sisters had messed with the wrong man. When Boggs finally got back to his cell, Captain Hadley was already waiting for him. Captain Hadley still needed Andy's help, so harming Andy meant harming his interests. Boggs tried to cry for help, but no one here was coming to save him. After that, 2 things never happened again. First, the sisters never touched Andy after that. And second, no one ever saw Boggs walk again. He was transferred to a state-funded care facility for the severely disabled, spending the rest of his life on a liquid diet through a straw. To celebrate Andy getting out of the infirmary, the guys collected lots of rocks during work detail. These would let Andy carve and pass the time. Plus, they got him a huge poster of a beautiful woman. Andy had once told Red he wanted a bigger poster. While Andy was reading his Bible, he heard a commotion outside. It turned out Warden Norton was doing a personal cell inspection that day. He headed straight for Andy's cell, and the guards started ransacking the place for contraband. Warden Norton took the Bible from Andy's hands. He knew every page of the Bible by heart, and he'd heard Andy was good with numbers, which was very useful.
Some contraband here, but nothing to get it twisted over.
Can't say I approve of this, but I suppose exceptions can be made.
Then Warden Norton closed the door to leave, but he almost forgot something.
I'd hate to deprive you of this. Salvation lies within.
Warden Norton knew everything about the Bible, or at least he thought he did. But the inspection was just an excuse. Warden Norton wanted to size Andy up. A few days later, Andy was called to the warden's office. On the wall hung an embroidered piece woven by Warden Norton's wife in church, reading, "His judgment cometh, and that right soon." Andy was suddenly reassigned to the library, where the work was very light, and Brooks's little bird had grown quite a bit. Brooks was somewhat surprised because Shawshank Prison's library was tiny, and most prisoners were illiterate. The daily job was just loading books onto a cart for a short trip, managed solely by Brooks for decades, needing no extra help. Just as Andy was puzzled, Captain Hadley arrived with a guard. The guard heard there was a banker here who handled things for free. He wanted to set up an education fund for his child. Andy instantly understood. He pulled out paper, a pen, and an old wooden desk as if he were back in a real bank. And this gave Andy a new idea. He decided to expand the library, starting with bringing in some new books. But Warden Norton wouldn't part with a dime. Prison funds, besides security upgrades, mostly lined his pockets, and he only agreed to mail Andy's letters. So Andy began mailing 1 letter a week to the government, requesting funding. He never got a response. By the second year, Andy was doing taxes for half the prison guards, and by the next year, almost everyone had him do their taxes, including Warden Norton. Later, even baseball teams for charity events squeezed into the small library. Various prison events were rescheduled to match tax season. Because Andy did excellent free tax work, guards from nearby prisons started coming. During the busiest time each year, even Red had to pitch in as a helper. Red was thrilled. Escaping the grueling factory work was exactly what he wanted. As for the letters, Andy still sent one every week, but an unexpected thing happened this day. The usually calm and gentle Brooks suddenly snapped. He held a knife to Haywood's neck, saying he had no choice. Thankfully, with Andy's persuasion, Brooks ultimately didn't do anything foolish.
What the hell did you do to set him off anyway?
I didn't do nothing. I come in here to say fare thee well. Ain't you heard his parole come through?
Brooks had been approved for release. This confused Andy even more. After finally regaining freedom, why did Brooks look so hopeless? But Red understood. Brooks had done 50 solid years in prison. He'd become a frog in a well, institutionalized by the system. Brooks was literate, held an enviable job inside, but outside, he'd have nothing, becoming a despised old man. Brooks changed into a suit and set his bird free. He was lost. Apart from prison, Brooks had no home. Sitting on the bus, he didn't know where to go. The outside world had changed a lot. Brooks had only seen one car as a child. Now they filled the streets. The whole world was a frantic, impossibly fast place. The prison arranged an apartment for Brooks and a job as a grocery bagger. Brooks worked hard, but arthritis in his hands slowed him down. Customer complaints were common, and the manager disliked him. When he wasn't working, Brooks would go to the park to feed the birds. He wished that bird would come back and greet him, but it never did. At night, Brooks tossed and turned. Since release, he often had nightmares, waking in panic, forgetting where he was. Brooks thought maybe he should shoot the manager. Then he could go back to his friends. But he was too old for that kind of trouble now. Brooks didn't like the outside world. He was tired of living in constant fear and decided not to stay. No one would care about a miserable old man. Brooks could endure 50 years of darkness, but 3 days of light shattered him completely. Perhaps the real prison was never the chains. It wasn't on the hands, but in the heart. Soon after, a name was carved on the hotel's beam, alongside a body long devoid of its soul. Andy received a letter from Brooks, though it was unclear if it counted as a suicide note. Maybe this was the fate of all institutionalized men after release. While Brooks's letters would never get a reply again, Andy's letters finally got a government response. After 6 years of mailing one letter every week, he received a $200 donation, along with some books and miscellaneous items. The government wanted to brush him off, but Andy decided to write 2 letters a week instead. While sorting through the items, Andy found a record. This gave him a bold idea. Andy locked the radio room door and then turned on every speaker in the prison. After some static, beautiful music echoed through every corner, every prisoner looked up, having nearly forgotten what music was.
Andy?
I have no idea to this day what those 2 Italian ladies were singing about. Truth is, I don't want to know. Some things are best left unsaid.
But this taste of freedom lasted only a moment. Andy's actions quickly drew Warden Norton. He was pulled back to reality. Facing the warnings outside the door, Andy showed no fear. He turned the music up to maximum volume until Captain Hadley smashed the glass. But everyone needed Andy, so he only got 2 weeks in solitary confinement. Solitary confinement in the dark hole was the hardest. Everyone thought it wasn't worth it, but to Andy, some things in the mind and heart could never be taken away. Red enjoyed playing the harmonica when young, but lost all interest after prison. Because in prison, such things meant nothing.
Let me tell you something, my friend. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane. It's got no use on the inside. You better get used to that idea.
Like Brooks did?
Andy's words angered Red. In this prison, hope was torture. Every few years, parole officers came. They gave lifers a chance at freedom. Red held on to hope, but without exception, no matter how heartfelt his pleas, no matter how he swore to God he was reformed, he was always rejected. Hope brought despair. In the blink of an eye, 30 whole years had passed. Looking back, Red didn't know how he'd endured the past days. Andy had also been inside for 10 years. He handed Red a harmonica, hoping to spark Red's longing for freedom. But Red was afraid to play. He feared freedom and hope. And Andy kept his word. He kept writing 2 letters every week. In 1959, The state legislature finally realized $200 wouldn't shut Andy up. They decided to grant $500 annually to make him stop. Under Andy's direction, the Shawshank Prison Library underwent a major renovation. Everyone pitched in where they could. The once-hated cramped storage room transformed into the finest prison library in New England. They could read all kinds of new books and even listen to popular records. That same year, Warden Norton launched his famous Outsider Work program, gaining widespread public attention. It put hardened criminals to work on public projects, helping the people and the government. But what others didn't know was the warden profited in countless ways. Hundreds of free laborers let him dominate nearly all nearby projects. Other contractors wanting work had to send the warden a slice of the pie. If the slice was big enough, Warden Norton would release some jobs, and he never missed out on government grants either. Behind every deal, under every dollar of dirty money, Andy kept the books for Warden Norton. And these secret ledgers were stored right under that embroidered piece, under the Lord's judgment. Red cautioned Andy to be careful. If things got exposed, Warden Norton would surely blame everything on Andy. But Andy wasn't worried at all. He had exploited a legal loophole to create a paper person, someone with a name, a birth certificate, a driver's license, and even a social security number. However, this person existed only on paper. Andy laundered all the dirty money one by one, finally leaving behind this account with no real person attached. Even if problems arose, no one would have to suffer for it. If nothing went wrong, this account would be worth millions by the time Warden Norton retired. Red asked Andy if he felt at peace with himself. Ironically, Andy had been law-abiding outside prison but turned to crime once inside. He worked for Warden Norton while personally building the library and helping inmates earn their high school diplomas. Shawshank didn't turn Andy black. It forged him into a shade of gray. The familiar alarm sounded. In 1965, new inmates arrived at the prison, and one young man named Tommy was especially likable. Tommy got 2 years for breaking and entering, but his bubbly, straightforward personality quickly won everyone over. Tommy had considered prison his home since he was 13, having been in nearly every jail he'd ever heard of, a point of pride for him. But Andy thought Tommy wasn't that good at stealing, and should try something else more fitting.
Yeah, well, what the hell you know about it, Capone? What are you in for?
Me? Lawyer, me. Everybody's innocent in here. Don't you know that?
Andy was no longer the green rookie he once was, nor was he as withdrawn as before. Tommy had a beautiful wife and a little daughter. Perhaps fearing his wife and daughter might end up homeless, or maybe experiencing a pang of conscience, Tommy actually sought out Andy himself. He wanted to get a diploma to find work, and Andy didn't refuse. Tommy couldn't read, so Andy started teaching him the alphabet, little by little. Tommy studied diligently and suddenly discovered he had talent in other areas. A year later, Tommy took the prison exam. But when time ran out, Tommy, overwhelmed by nerves, felt he had gotten most of the answers wrong. He thought he'd done terribly. Tommy was overly negative and agitated. He was convinced he hadn't gotten a single question right and had wasted a whole year. Andy didn't say a word. He just silently picked up the exam paper. Actually, Tommy regretted it deeply. He hadn't wanted to disappoint Andy and was also curious why someone like Andy ended up in prison.
Wouldn't think it to look at the guy. Caught his wife in bed with some golf pro. Raised them both.
Tommy found Andy and recounted a piece of unknown past. 4 years earlier, while serving time in another prison, Tommy had a homicidal cellmate. This man had worked at a golf club, specifically to target wealthy people. One day, he broke into a golf instructor's house and, simply because he felt like it, took the lives of the instructor and his mistress.
Golf pro, but she's married some other guy. Some hotshot banker. And he's the one they pinned it on.
Hearing this, Andy, always calm and composed, could no longer contain himself. He, too, had once wondered if he had killed someone while drunk, but the facts proved he was innocent. He grew desperate with anticipation. This was his only chance to overturn his conviction. The club and that prison had records of the real killer. The truth was within reach. But Warden Norton refused Andy upon hearing this. He dismissed it all as nonsense and didn't want to lose Andy, his valuable helper, even though Andy promised never to mention the dirty dealings if released.
Trying to set your mind at ease, that's all. Sir, I didn't...
Solitary, a month.
Yes, sir.
What's the matter with you?
Get him out of here.
This is my chance to get out. Don't you see that? It's my life. Don't you understand? It's my life.
Get him out. Get him out.
It's my life.
Red had never heard of anyone being kept in solitary confinement for so long. By then, Andy had been in prison for 19 years. Perhaps he truly was the only innocent man in Shawshank. Meanwhile, Tommy's exam results arrived back from the government. Contrary to his expectations, Tommy hadn't just passed. He'd earned his diploma with above-average marks. He had only lacked confidence. Hearing the news in solitary, Andy couldn't help but smile. And Tommy held Andy in deep admiration. One day, Tommy was suddenly summoned by Warden Norton, but the meeting place was odd, the prison's back gate. Warden Norton personally lit a cigarette for Tommy, saying his conscience troubled him. He claimed he desperately wanted to know if the story of Andy's wrongful conviction was true.
I need your help, son. There can't be the least little shred of doubt. I have to know if what you told Dufresne was the truth.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Tommy was so eager to clear Andy's name that he failed to sense the double meaning in Warden Norton's words. Warden Norton stamped out the cigarette and then looked up, as if signaling to someone. Captain Hadley's face appeared in the dim light. Just like that, Tommy was killed on Warden Norton's orders. Warden Norton announced publicly that Tommy had tried to escape, and Captain Hadley had no choice but to shoot. But Andy knew Tommy had less than 6 months left on his sentence. Why would he do something so foolish? Andy had had enough. He wanted it to stop. He refused to launder any more money for Warden Norton, but Norton was too greedy. As long as Andy was in prison, he wouldn't let him stop. If Andy refused, he'd make him suffer worse than death. He would no longer have guards protect Andy. Instead, he would have Andy thrown into a cell with violent inmates, day and night, without end. As for the library, he would brick it up and burn the books publicly on the yard, if Andy dared to stop. After 2 months in solitary, Andy finally saw daylight again, but seemed changed. It was now Andy's 27th year in prison. If redemption was truly required, Andy felt he had paid enough. He told Red that if he ever got out of prison, he would go to a place called Zihuatanejo. It was on the Pacific coast south of Mexico, a place people called the Sea, with no memory. Andy wanted to live out his life there. He didn't need memories. He would open a small hotel, buy a beat-up boat, take tourists out to sea and start over. As he spoke, Andy began to laugh. But Red thought Andy was delusional. Accepting fate was the best option.
I guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living. You get busy dying.
Before leaving, Andy looked back at Red. He told Red that if Red ever got paroled, he should go to a hayfield near Buxton in Maine. At the north end stood a huge oak tree, beautiful as a painting. It was also the place where Andy had proposed to his wife. At the base of the stone wall under that tree, one rock was special. If Red ever got out, he must go find that rock. Underneath it was something Andy had left for him. With that, Andy turned and walked away without looking back. Red was worried by Andy's crazy talk. He feared Andy might do something drastic. During the day was one thing, but at night when everyone was gone, no one could stop Andy. Then Haywood mentioned that Andy had just borrowed a rope from him, 6 feet long, plenty for hanging. Soon it was lights out. Red watched Andy intently. Andy sat alone in his cell, pulled out the rope from behind him, and looked determined, as if he had made up his mind.
I've had some long nights in stir. Alone in the dark with nothing but your thoughts, time can draw out like a blade.
That night brought a heavy rainstorm, and Red had no idea what was happening. The next morning during roll call, the alarm suddenly blared. Andy had vanished into thin air, leaving only a pair of old leather shoes for Warden Norton and the tunnel everyone thought impossible to dig. The entire guard force mobilized, but all they found was a prison uniform, a bar of soap, and a rock hammer nearly worn to nothing. It turned out, 20 years earlier, when Andy first got the rock hammer, he tried carving his name into the wall. What seemed solid rock crumbled away with a mere scrape. Andy was a geology enthusiast. He realized the prison's construction materials were decayed and weak. And throughout his entire 27 years inside, Andy even learned the weather patterns. So he asked Red for a large poster to use as cover, silently chipping away every quiet night, then pretending to stroll in the morning, actually shaking the dust from his trouser legs. After Tommy's death, Andy realized this was a soul-crushing prison, and he had no more penance to serve. He decided not to stay a moment longer. That very night, while Warden Norton opened his safe, Andy secretly swapped the ledgers, taking a new suit and pair of leather shoes instead. He walked right out of the office. The guards didn't notice a thing. After all, in prison, no one pays attention to another man's shoes. Just as Andy predicted, thunderstorms always came this time of year. At lights out, Andy packed his bundle, quickly crawled through the tunnel he'd dug. True, using just a small rock hammer to tunnel outside would take at least 600 years. But Andy had another way. He dug to the prison's sewage pipe. With thunder masking the sound, he hammered blow after blow until he smashed a hole big enough to crawl through. While large enough to crawl through, it was a sewer pipe. The stench inside was overwhelming, the foul smell making Andy vomit every few feet. Yet he crawled on hands and knees for half a mile. 500 yards, the length of 5 football fields, crawling inch by inch towards freedom, until he was truly free. Andy shed the prison uniform that had bound him for 27 years. Now he ran through the howling wind, as if the heavens themselves were cheering. Farewell, cage. In the spring of 1975, a man who had never existed walked into a bank. Previously only a name on paper, now he was dressed in a suit, radiating confidence. He had every document, carried himself with such authority, no one doubted him. The gentleman withdrew all the wealth from the account and also asked the manager to mail a package of documents to a newspaper. Soon, all the scandals of Shawshank Prison made front-page headlines. Before Warden Norton could react, the Lord's judgment came swiftly. Police surrounded the prison at top speed. Warden Norton tried to destroy the evidence but found only a Bible inside his safe, the title page bearing a clear message from Andy. When he opened it, he found a hollowed-out space, the imprint of a rock hammer. It turned out, during that cell inspection, the rock hammer the guards hadn't found was hidden inside the Bible. Warden Norton knew the Bible's contents by heart, but forgot its weight. Captain Hadley was arrested first. Though Red wasn't there, he heard Captain Hadley was so scared he cried like a baby. Warden Norton pulled out his weapon, preparing a last stand. But the clamor of justice outside the door was deafening. It was a weight he couldn't bear. Well-versed in the Bible, Warden Norton knew his sins were unforgivable. In the end, he chose to take his own life. Not long after, Red received a postcard. It had no writing, just a postmark from Fort Hancock, Texas. On the edge of the map, meaning Andy was heading south. The thought of Andy driving a convertible full of confidence always made Red chuckle.
Who crawled through a river of shit and came out clean on the other side. Andy Dufresne.
After that, Andy became a legend within Shawshank Prison. Old friends often spoke of his deeds. Red always listened nearby, happy for Andy, because some birds aren't meant to be caged. Their feathers are just too bright. When they fly away, you rejoice in their freedom. Sadly, Red remained stuck in place, living a dull, tedious life. Red often thought of his old friend. Until Red's 40th year inside, the parole board asked him again if he was reformed. This time, Red couldn't be bothered to explain.
There's not a day goes by I don't feel regret. Not because I'm in here, because you think I should. A young, stupid kid who committed that terrible crime. I want to talk to him. That kid's long gone, and this old man is all that's left. So you go on and stamp your form, Sonny, and stop wasting my time. Because to tell you the truth, I don't give a shit.
After Red spoke, the room fell silent. Perhaps he truly moved the parole board, or perhaps because Red was too old to commit more crimes, his careless outburst earned him parole. Red, like Brooks, left his home. He boarded a bus, moved into the arranged apartment. The name Brooks carved on the beam was painfully visible. Red's situation was slightly better than Brooks. He could still work, but every time he needed the restroom, he had to ask the manager's permission. This embarrassed the manager. No normal person did that. But Red had to. Without asking, he couldn't go at all. Without a doubt, 40 years in prison had institutionalized Red. Outside, Red couldn't cope. Looking at weapons in a shop window, he thought about ending it all, about going back to Shawshank Prison. Red finally understood how Brooks must have felt. But in the end, Red bought a compass. He'd promised Andy to go to that place if he got out. Perhaps even Red's outcome Andy had foreseen, which is why he left this seed of hope. Red reached a hayfield near Buxton and found the big oak tree. The stone wall was long. Red searched and searched, finally finding a distinctive rock, and under it, a metal box. The box was rusted. Inside was travel money and a note from Andy.
Dear Red, if you're reading this, you've gotten out. And if you've come this far, maybe you're willing to come a little further. You remember the name of the town, don't you?
Zihuatanejo.
This was the seed of hope Andy left. He'd been waiting for Red there all along. Red packed his bags and left his own message on the porch. Red committed a crime again. He violated his parole, heading south out of town. He expected roadblocks, but like Brooks said, no one cared about an old man. Sitting on the bus, Red couldn't stop excited daydreaming. This was the thrill unique to a free man, exploring an unknown journey. He hoped to cross the border successfully. He hoped to shake his friend's hand. He wondered if the Pacific was as blue as he imagined. But Red didn't need to wonder anymore. In this sea with no memory, everything was that beautiful. So what exactly did Shawshank Redemption redeem? And what does freedom truly mean to a person? We fight against the outside world all our lives. We often believe it's the outside world that steals our happiness and love. We hate the Shawshank that confined us. But the truth is, we are the ones resisting. We push happiness and love away, only examining our hearts when it's all finally lost. Actually, Andy had dug the tunnel long ago, yet he delayed leaving. Red got parole, had freedom, yet wanted to end his life, because back then, they and we had unresolved burdens within. When we truly make peace with ourselves, perhaps that's when we find real freedom. Otherwise, we merely escape one cage only to enter a larger one. Just like some birds, even freed from the cage, are still bound by the sky. Just like some people, even taking steps forward, are still chained to yesterday. And what can redeem you can only be yourself.